Hello, Nicole Pistotnik.
Hello, Indrani.
It's so nice to see you.
Oh my God, it's so nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. I really, really appreciate it.
Anything for you.
Oh my God, and I would do anything for you. You're one of my babies. And
Oh.
I love you very much. I've asked everybody the same question, so I will ask you the same one. Why acting? Why?
Oh my God,
Why'd you choose it?
so many reasons.
Tell us.
I mean, I think, I'm sure this answer comes up a lot. I think people that are prone to bouts of extreme empathy are really drawn towards acting because I think that's kind of the foundation of it.
I don't think anyone has said that.
Oh, really? Wow. I'm shocked. For me, it's like, it's empathy and like the curiosity. And I feel like it was a way for me to explore that and kind of, hone in on like that's because empathy can be really overwhelming unless like you kind of have like an outlet for it. And I also think that it's a great way to kind of get out of your own head and your own, just like being stuck in your own problems and thinking that like you are the center of like the universe and like, just thinking that everything revolves around you and that you have like all these problems because you get to experience like all of these different lives and see, that the world's bigger than us. But at the same time, how interconnected it all is. Like that for me is what it really is. It's like acting's so difficult because it requires like a lot of courage, but it also really is so simple. It just comes down to being a person. And I think we like
love that you said that.
Forget about like what it's like to be a person and that we're not the only people, and that we all share really similar issues, like maybe under different circumstances, but like the feelings, like the core issues, and the emotions and experiences are the same. And so it's all about like connectedness. And I think when I started acting, I was also I was feeling really disconnected. And I think that's why I was kind of drawn towards it, is because everything is about like, you have to feel connected to your character, to the writing, to your scene partner, to like the directors, and then first and foremost, like to yourself. I feel like you have to have an understanding of yourself in order to kind of, like you can't really connect with other people, I think, unless you're connected to yourself. And I think that's what I was kind of searching for when I started acting, and that's why I love it, because I've learned so much about other people in the world, but I've learned so much about myself as well.
So great. You were was it family? Was it, I don't want you to, was it friends? What was making you feel like this? Like, was it, COVID? What was it?
It was a lot of things. I think it was just a bunch of little things that had compounded over all of at that point, I started a little later than I would have liked to. I think I was like 25. And like for 25 years of life, I feel like I was just so trying to be this person that everyone else like wanted me to be. I felt like that was my like survival instinct, was like people pleasing and kind of just, like taking care of everybody else.
That's very normal.
Yeah. And I think, and that kind of goes back to like the empathy. I was like, I'd rather, take the burden of the pain away from these other people that I love so much and not have them be in pain, but then you kind of sacrifice yourself. And I don't know, I feel like I had been thinking about acting for years prior, and it was one of those things that I had convinced myself that like I couldn't do. And I haven't totally unpacked why that is. I don't know if I thought it was just cliche or people would think it was stupid. You tell yourself
fear of
all these
judgment.
lies, fear of judgment, fear that I can't do it. I think that's also a big fear. It's just like that you're not good enough.
Yeah, fear of failure.
And so I just think, I was going down this path. I was working in PR, as you know, and I was really just unhappy. And I had really no reason to be unhappy in like the scheme of things, but I just was. I felt disconnected from myself, and therefore, like I was saying before, I think I felt really disconnected from everybody else because I wasn't living in my, authentic truth. I wasn't being, loyal to myself. And so when COVID hit, that's kind of where COVID came into play. I hate to be one of those people that really like as grateful for COVID because it was a really horrible thing for so many.
No,
but it gave me that space because I got laid off from my New York PR job. I moved back home and I kind of had this time to be like, what do I want to do? Like, this is probably the only time that I'll be able to like sit here and not have any commitments and be like, what do I really want to do? Like, what do I think will make me happy? And I was able to try acting. Really low stakes too. Like I didn't have to tell anybody. Everything was online. So I was like, I can dabble. And if I hate it or I'm too like embarrassed, no one has to know.
It's my dirty little secret.
Yeah, like it truly was. I like felt like I had to like break news to people when I was like, so I'm acting.
And they're like, what?
And yeah, I mean, of course I'd obviously been drawn to it. So, you know, you can't deny what you long for. And so I loved it and I've stuck with it ever since. I know that was really long-winded, but you know.
Please, I want short wind, long wind, all the wind. Come on. This is what this is for.
I'm like, you know me, I can just talk.
Well, it's funny because many people feel that way, but it's like, you never know who you're going to actually help. Mm-hmm. That's what's surprising. You know, it's like, really? It's like, yeah, he's feeling the same thing. And, you know, what you're so sweet, you know, what the thing that COVID did, and it did, I think it did it for a lot of people, you know, it gave them that space to really check in with themselves.
Yes.
What do I really want to do?
Without the pressures of like, at least in my circumstance.
Go.
Yeah, and I was laid off, so like I got unemployment money and I was living at my mom's, so I didn't have to pay any rent. You know what I mean? Like, and
yes,
people couldn't even go out to eat. Like all the things that I probably would have wasted time and energy and money towards.
It's distraction sometimes.
Anymore. Yeah, totally. I mean, I have a major shopping addiction, partially because I'm like, I'm sad. What am I going to buy today?
I understand that.
It's the best kind of coping mechanism.
There's a reason it's called retail therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
No, absolutely. Now, all of these, because I can feel that, you know, still waters run deep for you, you know, have you in your work drawn on stuff that has, you know, really like been stuck in there, you know, stuck in your belly where it's like, oh my God, you know, maybe you never explored it in your life. You know, since you're a people pleaser, mm-hmm. Self-proclaimed, you just kind of, not gonna. Yeah. But then you get to do this work and it's like,
you know what
exercise
it was?
the beast.
Because the way that I wasn't really, as you know, I'm not like a quiet people pleaser. Like I'm not necessarily like a wallflower and all of a sudden I was able to just like have a voice. But what really, I was thinking about this in the car on the way over here, what it kind of did for me. Because as we know, when you're acting, especially on camera, mm-hmm. you can't bullshit.
Right.
And I think that I was going through because my way of pleasing was just like feeding a bunch of bullshit. Mm-hmm. And maybe like in my mind, convincing myself that it was true, even though it wasn't. So I feel like drawing on that, I was able to kind of check in with myself and weed out like, what is, because another thing with acting that's like the foundation of it is truth. Like being a person it's telling the truth and being authentic. And I don't think I necessarily knew how to do that because when you are like trying to please everybody, you're not really vocal. Like you don't know how, like I didn't know how to speak my truth. It was always like watered down in ways or kind of like strategically, you know, presented so that it was like palatable for the people in my life. So I think
not ruffle feathers and offend.
Yeah,
I get that.
So I think it really allowed me to be kind of like, oh, like what is my truth and what would like telling the truth kind of feel like in this moment? And I think that's what I struggled with sometimes is, you've known, like I had a harder time with breaking through some emotional barriers. And I think part of it is because I could like easily like lie to myself that like it wasn't as painful as it was instead of unlocking that. I don't know if that made sense, but
no, it absolutely no, that made a lot of sense. Yeah. It's you know, like what I like to say, and I'm sure you've heard me say this, a learned behavior. Mm-hmm. It's learned behavior and it's chronic, and you do it and you do it and you do it, and then one day it's like, I cannot do this anymore. Yeah. I cannot do this anymore.
You're bursting.
Yeah, and it actually feels great. Mm-hmm. And
well, especially like you're saying, learn. I mean, we, as a society, for whatever reason, people have a very difficult time when people have like strong emotions.
Yeah.
And so I think
It's not rewarded.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and I kind of really attract people. I think maybe because I was really sensitive growing up, that I attract a lot of people that are a little bit more harsh about those things. So it was kind of like, why is this affecting you so much? Like, why are you taking this so personally? Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, why do you care? So, like all those things. And so you kind of like, you break it down, and you kind of like build those walls up, because that's what you're conditioned to be like, oh, feeling is bad. That's kind of like the tagline, is like, having feelings is bad. Showing feelings, not even having them, showing feelings is bad.
That's always the subtext.
Yeah.
Feelings bad.
Yeah.
Do not show, swallow them.
Yeah, it'll make people uncomfortable. That's like
Yes.
kind of what.
And what's a beautiful thing about all of you artists, all of you artists, society looks to you and goes, oh my God, yes. Because you do take the risk and say, this is it. And everyone's feeling that way. You guys just give voice to that, which is a very special gift that you give to the world.
Yeah.
So always honor it.
Yes. It is.
It's such a true thing.
It is.
It's you have to be brave. You must be brave. Otherwise,
Because like you were saying, I mean, you're helping so many people by even, experience it. Like, that's the best thing, is when you can have an experience and it moves someone else. And usually you're moved by things that you like, that resonate with you.
Right.
So it's really a privilege to be an actor.
I 100% agree with you. Oh, absolutely agree with you. I want to ask you one last question.
Oh my
Because it was so fabulous hearing your, I haven't heard
wow.
some of these things I haven't heard from you.
Oh,
which is,
good.
so I really appreciate it. Thank you. Where do you ideally want to see your career go? What are you thinking?
Oh my gosh. Well, dreams. We're dreaming really big.
Please. What does success look like to you, in other words?
I mean, I'd love to do movies, like first, and that's where my heart lies. Television, obviously I would take anything. And it is like a beautiful medium in itself. But I think if I did that, I'd want to do more like short form, like the limited series, or like more like HBO, like a couple seasons, like something that really like high quality television.
Yeah.
But I'd really love to do movies. I mean, I'm really drawn towards like dramedy kind of things that feel more they just feel more like realistic and like representative of what people are really like. I don't think I'm serious enough to be like super heavy drama. And I think that there's like a degree of like slapstick comedy that like, it's not my forte, but just like, overall, just being a well-rounded person and like being like living in the truth. And then, if all of that went well, and like maybe, I could win an Oscar one day.
I would
Who, me?
I would love it.
I'd like to thank Indrani for being my teacher.
Of course.
The Academy.
I'm first before the Academy. Excellent. No.
Yeah, of course, always.
So
You're
silly.
for my parents. But I'd like to even explore maybe like doing something with producing. I think it's like really cool that a
Yes.
lot of these actors have started their own production companies, because I also love to read, and I feel like that's one of the reasons I love acting too. Is I used
Be
to
like a Reese Witherspoon. Grab
Yes.
a book and like.
No, I'm a voracious fiction reader, and I'm always super excited because I'll read something. I'm like, this would be a great like movie or show. And then when it's actually adapted, I get super excited. I'm kind of like, I could do that. Like I could
Yes,
find
you
the
can.
material.
Yes, you can.
And also like, I know that Reese, one of her motivations for starting the production company is in her older age, she wanted to be cast in like meatier roles that like, she didn't want to get like relegated to the side just because she was older. She wanted to find characters,
Rich,
yes,
fully fleshed out women.
yes, exactly. So there's a lot of power in that too, just finding projects that you're like, I want to be a part of this, so I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah, because then, it's totally your voice, and it becomes like that passion project. Miss Nicole, thank you so much.
Oh
See? I like to make it like fun.